Good afternoon. It's quite contrasted to speak about landscape after the first speak. So I will try to introduce the capacity of landscape to be the heart of new urban development. A landscape project, studies and construction need approximately 5 to 8 years. So when it's going out, it's just the beginning of teenager. I will present 3 examples. The first one is in Bordeaux, Botanical Garden. It's on the left side of the Garonne, in front of the very famous 18th century facade, UNESCO protected. As you can see, it's a factory district, very poor. It's supposed to be approximately 25 hectares new urban development. And it was a request that the first piece is the Botanical Garden, approximately 6 hectares. So it's a flat area, urban area, factories area. A Botanical Garden program is very specific, and one of the masterpieces was to represent the 12 environmental from the Basin Aquitaine in only 2 hectares, or 5 hectares in the total. So that's a gap, because the scale in landscape is a very important scope. And to introduce a diversity in a small piece, in a pocket, kind of pocket for landscape, was a challenge. So the way you bring together the element authorizes or not authorizes what could happen. 10 years later, so as I explained, it's the first piece of the urban development. You can see that the way to bring together in 2 hectares quite successful, because at the beginning that piece was a basin, and at the end it becomes a lake in the center of the city. So we use by sure the real material coming from the real spaces, bringing together on the place. At the opening, one person understands that we dig just the ground and we found that on place, what is a little bit bizarre, but quite interesting, because that means that believe it, that it's possible to believe it. Such kind of proposal is possible because it's a facility. Botanical garden is a facility of learning. Not sure you can do that in a regular public space. So it means you have a team of gardeners who explain to the people what happened. And at the same time, as a way to organize spaces, are opportunity for young students, because on both sides you have campus, university campus, to just engage the place and to have encounter and specific playground. So it means it's not only a place for children or for just for rest, it's a place to invest for regular time and everyday life. And even for animals you are not used to see in the heart of a city. The second project is 25 hectares. It's on same mine land. Here you see vertical mine pits, so means the material is not used to be sold. It's a poor material, so just making deposit on vertical after the electricity discovering. So a poor material, but open to air and to light. The cyanobacteria make the job and introduce the plants years by years. And as is a specific situation about the sun reflecting, you can find here in the north of France Mediterranean vegetation because of the specific reflection of the sun. That was a place, it was decided to put the new Louvre Museum, a new installation. And the jury at the beginning, like Olympic cities, it was a jury, you choose a place in different cities, and they choose that place because it was a possibility to engage, to introduce a facility in a park of 25 hectares and to engage in urban development approximately 4,000 square kilometers. As landscaper at the competition with Sana, 2005, we wanted to bring together the different layers, making the resources of that place means first the coal, because the mine exploitation brings the economy of that land. Then when the economy stopped, it was a very, very poor population because they lose their job. And the natural plants coming back years by years and engage the value of the place to be the capacity of a park with a facility. As you might see, we don't want with Sana a monument. We open the place on the four horizon, so means the lobby is much more a public space, open to north, south, east, west, and to the city garden all around, from the people, the worker of the mine pit. It was expected to make fancies, because Louvre has very, very expensive piece of art, and as landscaper, we don't like as much fancies, and especially as the park is supposed to be open to the whole district, so you don't go through very easily fences. So we use the cut and fill from the basement of the building to transform the fences on piece of landscape, so to open the silt coming from the basement to the work of the cyanobacteria, of the rain, and of the light. So the building was not expected to be the main piece. The building with the park are just a transition, bringing the people from abroad or from the districts through the landscape, through the hobby, to the galleries and to the piece of arts. It means all the system is a traveling system, bringing the visitors through the timeline from environment, architecture, and then the goal from the facility is a piece of art coming from everywhere of the world. You can see behind the mound of the silt, transforming on the earthwork of the limit, that it's 2012 at the opening. You can see by step, the cyanobacteria do the job and transform, linked to the air, linked to the humidity, the earth to something vegetal. So just like a regular life on the earth, on our planet Earth. August 2014, it was very rainy and very hot, and the wall became suddenly a garden, a vertical garden. All that spontaneously, without any seeds, just putting the material on the air and on the humidity and under the sun. The second subject is when you have mine exploitation, the underground is very fragile because you have a lot of holes, and it was expected from us that we keep all rainwater on the side. The slope from west to east is approximately 4%, so it was not easy to put the building in the center of the plot and keeping the water on the place just to engage the plants process. To do that, and because we wanted with Sana to bring the building in the heart of clearing, building floating in the landscape, so something much more without a temporality, much more abstract. At the beginning, we wanted to use mainly lawns, but as is a museum, you cannot go through lawns to the gallery because you bring a lot of bad things to the piece of art. So the only way we found to do it is to mix as much as possible mineral and vegetal, to catch the water with holes, to open the soil with holes on the plants' work with the cyanobacteria transforming to mosses, and then to larger plants like shrubs and trees. All that is very precisely drawn with detail, linked to the slope work, and especially to the mix between mineral and vegetal. When you do concrete on the plaza, it's quite poor material, and you need, because concrete is live and it's moving, you need to make a lot of recessed joint. And it was a way I give argument to the engineer, because a lot of engineers said, okay, it's not possible, just prove it. And prove something that doesn't exist, it's difficult, so you just need to prove with technology. And the only way we found to introduce spontaneous vegetation is with a recessed joint, more or less large. So the smallest one is 2 centimeters, 1 centimeter, and until 20 centimeters. the best nest for spontaneous mosses and other plants, annual plants. So by sure, all that is spontaneous, so it can come or can be different, linked to the seeds, bringing with the birds, and linked to the season, more or less rain, more or less hot. And it's a difficult negotiation with a cleaner, because if you do very hard material to clean the concrete, by sure is no place for life and for spontaneous seeds. So it's a continual negotiation with uses and with life, like everywhere in a city. That project is very powerful, showing the possible link between architecture inside-outside. The architects are Japanese, so maybe they are much more trained to have a smooth link. And we work very delicately together to make just one unique concept for both building and landscape. One entrance coming from the station. The green canopy used to catch the water and to make protection against bad cars for coming, because it was a very, very important request to protect the building. The facade is fragile, it's glass, aluminum, against attentat. It was 2005, so what happened further was not expected, but at that time, by sure we don't want it with Sana to have a lot of plots, because it makes everything very bizarre, much more like a jail, and we use that small earthwork to protect, again, the bad behavior of attentat, to use that for spontaneous benches, and to catch all rainwater coming with a slope. So 3 functions for one piece of land, and it works quite well because of spontaneous appropriation. The spontaneous appropriation is for us a very important gift. That means that without giving as much explanation, it shows that what you propose as solution with design is appropriate with people who are not involved in design. Just use it because they are inspired with the place you engaged. So landscape is not only interesting in spring or in summer. It's for every season, autumn, winter, when it's nude, because in general, landscape is used for communication just to be nice and not to move. But landscape is written, and all seasons are informative with what happened with the cycle of life. In that case, it's both reality and representation, because the facade proposed by Sana is that the building is dissolved by the sky, by the clouds, by the reflection. And when you go from one entrance to the other, you can have a lot of very delicate reflection linked to the time. That one is much more at the end of the day, the sun reflection, and you discover very different the reality represented on the building. That is a picture from Evenban at the beginning. So you can see that the building is just a transition. It's just a tool to go through different timelines and to bring the visitors from outdoor to indoor to the piece of art they're supposed to discover. So it's a very poor country, a lot of problem with worker, no work because of the economy broken down. So it's a very huge challenge, such kind of facility. It's not only for happy fews coming from all around, what happened, but it's all for the inhabitants here to have a public space with a park and to be much more familiar with places and with galleries they are not used to go because they are quite without a walk. The third project is, so the previous was 25 hectares for approximately 4,000 square kilometer urban development. That one is 70 hectares in a new urban renewal after an airport area. The nearest is 250 hectares. It was an urban development proposed by Danalan with a competition for the park as the first key stone for the urban development. But in fact, is a park for 1,000 hectares, urban development. So the 250 is just the first stone. Here we are in tropical humid. People in that climate are used to spend a weekend and holiday in shopping malls, because when you go out, you are immediately nausy and uncomfortable. So we were very aware at the competition. We're thinking, okay, that's the amount of budget from that park is the same as the budget of Louvre-Lens building and park together. And we were said, okay, we will spend 70 million euros to make a park, and it's not possible to spend that money and just letting the people going to shopping mall because it's too uncomfortable. So the main scope of that project was to find a way to bring people back to Earth and to outdoor life. To use that, we try to engage design strategy linked to universal scopes, not only linked to fashion in design, and such kind of event, like a lot of heavy raining in a very short day, it just happened for 2 days ago. It happens last year, August, and it was under construction. And when such kind of event happened, everyone is stressed because nobody knows how to do. The park proposed that what event happened, it's just regular life because it's changing, and we just need to work with and to deal with that, and design need to manage all that, even whatever it is, if it's hard or low raining. We are on the feet of the mount. It's a volcanic island. So the conditions are very poor, so no earth, just pebble coming from the volcanic works. And that was a site when we demolished the asphalt from the airport area, so stones, pebbles, very good for infiltration, but not as much for plants. And we plan to reuse all the material on site, not to bring material from all over around, just to make nice or to make fashioning furniture, and to transform all material on site, soil and pebbles, just to keep it on place and to engage design linked to the technical request to keep all rainwater on place from the total 250 hectares district. Because even if it's raining a lot in Taiwan, as you may know, the mounts, we are on the feet of the mounts, and before the mounts was covered by forests, and the production, the economy of the wood demolished mainly the main forest. So it means the runoff of the raining going directly from the sky to the sea without any infiltration, because no trees to keep back the rain of the foliage. So when we do the competition, we study all that condition of rain, all the river coming from the mountains, bringing the rain from the top of the mountains to the plain, because we are on the feet of the mountains. And we try to introduce such kind of complexity, means interface between mineral and vegetal, and multi-layer drawing, so that the rainwater with very, very rain event with mousson and such kind of things on the place to nourish the water table. Because if you push the rain very fast away, what is the tradition in tropical humid, you just lose the capacity to nourish the water table, and in the few next generation, no more any safe water. For example, when you go to Taiwan, you go in the hotel, you have not to drink water from the place because you got sick. So the question about safe water is a very, very delicate question, and that park challenged mostly not very easily with the engineer, because the tradition of the engineer is really to push away very fast the water, not to keep the water on place. And it was requested from the brief to keep the rainwater from the whole district, who does not exist today. So means what event happened, the park keep on place 18% of the park full of water, and when it's a very, very exceptional event, 80% of the park is covered by water. But it's just not a drama, it's just what is possible to manage. So that's linked to the lithosphere design. Means lithosphere design is the way you work the soil, the foldering, to keep the water on place, because even if it's an airport has 1% slope from north to south, Means from north to south, you have a very large difference of level. So the only way to catch the water where it falls down is to put a very, very smooth foldering every 20 centimeters. We associate the lithosphere design with the atmosphere design. Means before the competition, on the competition, we make with transsolar simulation with the impact of the wind, with a further tower all around the district, with the traffic pollution, with the new roads, and with the less humidity far away from the pond, to engage much more comfortable places so that the people stay on place, where it's less hot. With the shadows of the tower, we engage much more planting to have much more shadow and to engage leisure land. Where it's much far away from the ponds, we engage trees. We catch the humidity of the air and linked to sport activity. And where it's much more far away from the traffic area, we engage trees, cleaning the air for the pollution, much more linked to the play for the small child. So by sure, most of the area is with much more than 10,000 trees, existing trees and new young trees. And we try to re-engage, even if it's tropical humid area, the rhythm of the season, so that a park is not only attractive at spring or at summer, but attractive the whole years. Landscape. When we do competition, it's expected always to prove the final point, but it's never final point. It's always ongoing, it's always changing. And that is just regular life, like your body is always changing. And it's very difficult to make that very clearly legible for politics, because they're supposed to explain to the inhabitant what they will have. But what they will have, for example, in Lens, it's 20 years after. So in tropical humid, it's a little bit more quicker because plants are very dynamic. So we do a very important work to go back to the tradition of Chinese mood. Means each stages has a value and has a power, and we need to take care on each stages and the way to bring together the element that is not only final point, that it's just an in-between. And in each in-between is a very interesting stage, and you will never see what you see 1 year before. 2 or 3 years later, you see something totally differently. So means each stage has its value, and the rendering of the park, so the submission, will be finished 2019, so we are in reception, and no building all around. So it's really the first heart of the city, of the further city. We will take approximately maybe 10 to 20 years, much more faster than in Europa. That it's just the first keystone with what will happen in the further next years. So today the park looks like alone in a very large area, but tomorrow you will have that one. So you can see that the scale will radically change, linked especially the east facade is a financial district, and it will be totally differently. To manage all that parameter means water, soil, topography, and heat, humidity, and pollution. We need to draw the 70 hectares square meter by square meter. And you can see in the mid of the topographic beds means the topography will manage all the rainwater. The phytoremediation plants are engaged 30 centimeter by 30 centimeter. That is very unusual in a so large area, but it was the only way to be sure that the scope to protect the whole district against the flood is possible to control or to work with. The green corridor is a promenade for 400 meters, linking a campus on the west to a technology campus on the west. You can see all that lines are drainage system, and all the dark points are manholes to be sure that the maintenance of the emptiness of the drainage are always working to keep the water and to infiltrate directly in the soil, to keep the soil alive and not to be just an impermeable area and dry area. I will show a series of drawings just to show that the different stages we engaged. So you see the park is alone without any building all around. And when it's just at the beginning, like we are now, it's empty and you are in front of soil of different finition, more or less porous, more or less mineral, more or less vegetal, with very young baby and approximately more than 1,200 old ficus and trees. We are lucky to combine with very young baby. But you can see that the perception of the space changed radically, linked at the beginning when it's nude, and when it's growing in 5-7 years, it will be full of canopy, and you will see no more all that earthwork. So for us, behind is a district. So it looks like a very large park on 200 hectares, but in fact it will build up. The thickness of that mound is approximately 12 to 15 meters, what is quite important in absolute. But when you will have 100 meters tower behind, it's just the thickness of a line. So you can see that the relativity of the scale and of the thickness of the elements change radically the way and the place you are and the context you are living nearby. And by sure, the appropriation from the inhabitant will change on the same time. I go a little bit faster. That's quite difficult to make it clearly understandable and acceptable by the inhabitant, because the inhabitant, when they invest a new place, they're expected to have full services and everything clean, what is just a theoretical position and not really linked to real life. We do that for the opening to make the transition with construction, because the construction takes from 2014 to 2019, so today, what is quite a double of what they expected. As they have no tradition and no experimentation about so large area, they were a little bit uncomfortable with the mass of detail and the request of the team of the design, architecture and landscape. So for example, here you are nearby the east facade with the further financial district. Then the client asked us to combine the leisure land, the sport land, and the playland with the 12 sons of the philosopher of Rudolf Steiner. So it means to complete the comfort of the places with a pedagogic way to bring the inhabitant back to outdoor. That's Eastern Sky Dome once more. A new space, a new public space like that bring new traffic, and linked to the topographic words, we propose at the beginning the 2.5 kilometers from north to south, full walking path without crossing any traffic. And to do that, we introduce 5 very important topographic mounts, the mounts I showed you before, so that animals, vegetal, and pedestrian can go from north to south without crossing any traffic. But that is one function. It equilibrated the cut and fill from the topographic beds to the positive area. But the other function was to create urban places under the mounts to engage different appropriation, spontaneous appropriation on the traffic roads. So it's not only linked to the traffic and cover the traffic, but it's linked to engaging urban spaces and plaza to make happening artistic happening, music happening, or party for the inhabitants. So you can see, I always like to show what is behind the end of the design, because it's the way you bring together the element will authorize or not the openness of the mesh. That are bridges and tunnels for approximately 2 hectares. So we are not interested to make bridges and tunnels. We were interested just to engage comfort and to engage continuity of native landscapes. But in fact, as the size is very large and unusual, when you go inside the places, it's like you go in a church, so you feel immediately, without any devices, the difference of coolness from inside to outside. What is the goal to reach? To keep the people outdoor and having rest in a park instead of shopping malls. So it's a very unusual way to draw bridges and tunnels, because it's a landscape way, just to let open the system and not to make just objects floating in the midst of native landscape. That one is quite impressive and important one, especially when it's under construction. But without the trees and with the life coming out, it's quite a small piece, in fact. That's a piece in front of the next Taiwan Tower, done by Porzan Park, another French architect with a local architect. We work with the park. And some pictures always ongoing that make visible all the elements you bring together, which you will never see anymore when it's covered by canopy in a forest. But in fact, it's all the different elements combined who make the biologic life possible or not possible with the braving with the water. And then it's very exceptional event. So as I explained, all topographic beds are full of water, and you just cross the park from north to south like you cross an ocean in everyday life. So that is a northern lounge in the middle of the roads. And I expected, it's not usual in Taiwan, because it's uncomfortable to have a music event, an artistic event, because it's comfortable to be there. And I asked what is totally unusual, that the speed of the road is 20 kilometers per hour, means in French it's named espace partagé, means the cars are not prior on that place. You can cross the road everywhere in pedestrian without getting in danger. And what is, for me, a very important gift is when the inhabitant or the child play with a drawing just because they are inspired and it evokes their imagination. Especially that part, it's a Louvre part. But it happens in Bordeaux, and I wish it happens in Taiwan. In Louvre, it's a pedagogic atelier to train the child to draw on the pattern of the park. So it means they ask the child to just propose what they learn from what they see directly in the garden. I speak about the 12 cents request from the client. We associate with a comfortable lens. I go a little bit faster. So that's really to engage a kind of pedagogic relation between the inhabitants and the place, with the highest point, the speech on the highest point of the park, where you can play with the sound reflection. And again, the different stages of the construction. The Tate's Field is in front of Sana Cultural Center. Because of 70 hectares park, you need to take rest and you need to take fresh juices or something similar. The hearing field on one of the highest points play with the sound and spontaneous sound between wind and clocks. The equilibrium, where you play with your body in the emptiness and between the canopies, the foliage. The sinking field linked to the much more spiritual area cut out, just linked to the light and to the earth. So it's really installation linked to the philosophy of Rudolf Steiner, the vision field, and then the sampling to the movement. You go from the top to 12 meters high, and you discover your body change in between the canopies and the ego field. So all that is new today, but tomorrow you are in between the foliage like a bird in a nest. And then the everyday life on the just regular ground level, touch field with a different definition of stones. The worms, much more traditional kiosk to protect against the sun. Smell field with different smells of flowers used in perfume transformation at that place. And the light field with the three main colors of early morning, midday, and end of day with Philip Ram. And finally, the visitor center where you can be in touch with all the different programs of the park and the possibility to engage activities. So it's very young. On the head of the park, they ask, the head on the feet, 450 pieces of parking plots in front of a conventional center. So in general, parking plots are not some positive places. And we combine that places with autonomous production of energy. And on that place, 70 square meter photovoltaic, which makes the total park autonomous about light production. Here you have the pitch field in the middle of the lake. You see on the back the sailing of the photovoltaic, but in the 2 next years you will have a conventional center in between. So really, the scale of the park is really linked to the way you let the soil in continuity, not in a frame of closed areas. What is the goal of a landscape project in my mind? Sportland with a specific soil finishing. The pond which accepts the different level of water, of the flood water. Eastern clearing, like I explained, with equilibrium, worms. The pass through the topographic beds means when it's flooded water, like for 2 days ago, all that leisure land is full of water. So it's empty or full, linked to the event of the rain. The 3 paths crossing the leisure land, the sport land, and the playland are done with different light, white, blue, and pink, developed by Philip Ram concept. And it happens for 1 year ago, full of snow, what is really exceptional in Taiwan. Just to open the discussion further, a park, a small park or a medium park that is a very large park cannot be reduced in one unique concept. It's always, for me, a polysemous way to put together a multi-layer subject, technical layer, so that even if it's the beginning of the park, no, it's always updated 20, 30, 40 years later, because it's a bridge, an in-between, and a braving, because between many, many subjects and not limited on one main concept. That is the only way for us to let the system open to interpretation and to appropriation. We cannot understand today, because we know what happened today, but we cannot imagine what could happen in 20 years ago, because the tradition and the behavior of the people change. And the only gift we think it's possible to give to the further generation is to let the system open for appropriation we cannot imagine today. That's it. Thank you.